Yesterday, Israel Adesanya announced that Dricus du Plessis turned down a title fight with him, citing the reason being a sore foot. Israel is determined to not miss the Sydney, Australia card at UFC 293 and has offered the title fight to Sean Strickland.
Dickless, the pussy, dickless. Off. You're out. Strickland, you're in. Let's do the man dance. Show you how to really dance.
Strickland spoke to Helen Yee today and confirmed that he has in fact been contacted by the UFC, and Sean is determined to negotiate a bigger payday in order to take this fight.
I mean, we're in talks, we're in talks. Like I said, it just comes down to just pay me, And the thing, guys, let me ask you guys, do we really want to watch Dricus and Izzy fight? No, we don't want to watch Dricus and Izzy fight. You want to watch me fight. Am I going to win? I don't know, but I'm going to go in there, I'm going to punch that Chinese motherfucker right in the face.
For context, the reason why Strickland calls Adesanya Chinese is because a long time ago when Adesanya was fighting in China, Adesanya said that he was Chinese in a promo video for that organization.
Well, take a look at me. What are you thinking? I'm a black man? I come from Africa? Come on, please, look at my heart. Haven't you seen it yet? Wait a second. Yes, I am a Chinese. I have a Chinese.
But Strickland insists that he has a price, and if the UFC is willing to pay it, then he's more than happy to fight Adesanya next for the title.
If you pay me, I have a price. You pay me money, I'll fight him right here. So, unlike Dricus, who's probably a smarter man, the true African he is, I am not. You pay me, we'll fight right here.
So we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the middleweight title fight picture. But one middleweight that's in the news today is Robert Whittaker. Whittaker has broken his silence since losing to du Plessis a couple weeks ago at UFC 290. Whittaker spoke on his podcast MMA Arcade and explained his frustrations for giving, in his words, the worst performance of his career.
I went out there with the intention of putting my best foot forward and giving the best performance of my career, and ended up giving the worst performance of my career. Yeah, that's the most upsetting part, because not only did I lose, I didn't do anything I worked on. That's just disappointing, because I've only got myself to hold the blame on that. And this isn't taking anything away from Dricus, because Dricus, he trained, he showed up ready to fight, and he turned up.
Whittaker plans to come back before the end of the year this November and hopes to bounce back from this loss.
This isn't how I want to finish my career. This isn't the feeling I want to experience again. The only way not to feel like this is to get back into the gym, train like a savage, and get back into the octagon sooner rather than later. I do want to fight again this year. Not going to be ready for September in Sydney, unfortunately. But I do want to get there in November. November is the date, the month that I want to get in there and finish the year strong.
Another middleweight that's in the news and just fought Whittaker is Dricus du Plessis. Dricus appeared on Cameron Simon's podcast to recap what happened with Adesanya at UFC 290. Dricus explains that he was never asked if it was okay for Adesanya to enter the octagon after his fight, but Dricus says he had no problem with it. In fact, he was glad the UFC let Adesanya in.
What was that exchange? No, they didn't ask me. As far as I know, Dana and Hunter and I think Mick, they had a little bit of a is this a good idea? Is it not a good idea? Yes.
Because Izzy was drunk, so it's just like...
Yeah, he was drunk, I guess. I hope so. Either way, they were just like, is this a good idea? Because they didn't want to take the moment away from myself and Rob, which I understand, but it didn't feel like that to me.
Okay.
To me, it felt like, give me my next target.
If you could have done it again, would you want him to enter the cage?
Yes.
Okay.
So, because I said it before, and I hope he gets in that cage, because he'll feel my energy when I'm in that cage.
Yes.
He's going to see how big I am in that cage. Now, I've seen him in that cage, and I felt this energy. There's only one time you see your opponent in a cage.
Yes.
And that's when you fight him.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen him before the fight.
Yeah.
Now I felt what he feels like in the cage, and
data's downloaded as well.
My man is in trouble.
Dricus would go on to talk about Adesanya's word usage inside the cage. Dricus explains that he wasn't offended at all, but criticizes Adesanya for using, quote, racial slurs when he's supposed to be a role model.
I do not want that a part of anything that I'm doing. Bringing race, color, with racial slurs, all of that stuff into it. immediately made me like, I don't want to be a part of this. And that's why I just walked away. Because I guess he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like
100%.
Dana said it, like he can say whatever he wants. And yeah, you can. I'm just not, I'm not entertaining any talk about the racial slurs. I'm not even that he's been using. I'm not, and it doesn't bother me. People are always like, "Oh, you offended?" I'm like, "No, it doesn't offend me."
Yeah.
What it does do is, people that are looking up to me sees that too. The people that I try to influence see that too, and I don't want to be any part of that.
As we wait to hear from Dricus about his future, Colby Covington has announced his plans. With the UFC announcing the main event of UFC 294, aka the Abu Dhabi card, yesterday, Colby believes that his title fight against Leon Edwards could take place at UFC 295 in New York City, Madison Square Garden. Colby says the UFC needs to stack the Madison Square Garden card with his fight because John Jones as a main event is unreliable.
A little update on me. I think this is going to go down in the Garden. I think it lines up on the board perfectly. They keep making a big deal out of this 30th anniversary show. Then what better way than to give the gift of us in Madison Square Garden for the 30th anniversary show in New York. They got to stack that card. They can't depend on John Jones, and better than anyone. He's unreliable. He's unprofessional. He could get popped for steroids. He could do a glass of tequila and some booger sugar up his nose, and he might be beating his wife and in jail again. So who better than to have his insurance policy than Colby Chaos Covington?
Colby Covington firmly believes that the UFC would not put his fight with Leon Edwards in the Abu Dhabi card, and also states that Leon Edwards would be stripped if he doesn't accept the fight by November.
This fight's going to happen. They're not going to put this in the desert, in Abu Dhabi. What sense does that make? Why not stack this Madison Square Garden card because it's their 30th anniversary show? I think it gets done by then. At the latest, I just don't see it being pushed back by December in Vegas. I think he's going to get stripped if it goes anything beyond that. So
as Colby sorts out his next fight, one fighter that could potentially return to the UFC is Nate Diaz. Nate is currently booked to box Jake Paul later this year, but he has revealed plans to return to the UFC in the near future. Nate appeared on the Raw Talk podcast and stated confidently that he will fight again in the UFC.
Like, will you ever fight again in the UFC?
Yeah.
You will?
Yeah.
Do you know when that would be?
I'm going to get this fight done with, and then everything changes with every fight. People don't understand that everything changes with every fight. Like the fight show last week, and every fight show that happens changes the whole how do you say it? Like, there's a whole bracket.
Like, as
when
far
a fight
as
happens, everything changes,
As Nate is preparing for a UFC return, we got an update for a different UFC fight. Yesterday, Umar Nurmagomedov pulled out of his fight with Corey Sandhagen after a shoulder injury. And today it was announced that the new main event for UFC Nashville will be Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font. It will be a 5 rounds at a catch weight of 140 pounds.